entity says that he is not controlled, but that that he is free, then he is insane. The living beings is controlled in every respect, at least in his conditioned life. So in the Bhagavad Gita, the subject matter deals with the Ishvara, the supreme controller, and the Jivas, the controlled living entity, Prakriti, material nature, and the time, the duration of existence of the whole universe, or the manifestation of material nature, and the karma, activity are also discussed. The cosmic manifestation is full of different activities. All living entities are engaged in different activities. From Bhagavad Gita, we must learn what is God is, what the living entities are, what Prakriti is, what the cosmic manifestation is, how it is controlled by time, and what the activity of living entities are. Out of these five basic subject matter in Bhagavad Gita, it is established that the Supreme Godhead or Krishna or Brahman or Supreme Controller or the Paramatma, you may use whatever name you like, it's greatest of all. The living beings are in qualities like a Supreme Controller. For instance, the Lord have control over the universe affairs, over material nature, etc., as will be explained in the later chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Material nature is not independent. She is acting under the direction of the Supreme Lord. As Lord Krishna says, Prakriti is working under my direction. When we see wonderful things happening in the cosmic nature, we should know that behind this cosmic manifestation there is a controller. Nothing could be manifestation without being controlled. It is childish not to consider the controller. For instance, a child may think that a automobile is quite wonderful to be able to run without a horse or other animal pulling it. But a sane man knows that nature of a automobile's engineer arrangement. He always knows that behind the machinery there is a man, a driver. Similarly, the Supreme Lord is a driver under whose direction everything is working. Now the jivas or the living entities have been accepted by the Lord, as we will note in the later chapters, as his part and parcel. A particle of gold is also gold, a drop of water from the ocean is also salty, and similarly, with a living entity, being the part and parcel of Supreme Controller, Ishvara or Bhagwan, Lord Sri Krishna have all the qualities of a Supreme Lord in minute quantity because we are minute Ishvara, subordinate Aishwaras. We are trying to control nature as presently we are trying to control space or planets, and this tendency to control is there because it is in Krishna. But although we have a tendency to lord it over material nature, we should know that we are not the supreme controller. This is explained in Bhagavad Gita. What is material nature? This is also explained in Gita as inferior prakriti, inferior nature. The living entity is explained as a superior Prakriti. Prakriti is always under control, whether inferior or superior. Prakriti is female and she is controlled by the Lord, just as the activities of a wife are controlled by the husband. Prakriti, Prakriti is always subordinate, predominated and by Lord, who is predominator. The living entity and the material nature are both predominated, controlled by the Supreme Lord. According to the Gita, the living entities, although part and parcel of Supreme Lord, are to be considered Prakriti. This is clearly mentioned in the 7th chapter, 5th verse, Bhagavad Gita, Apareyam etastva anyam. This is Prakriti is my lower nature. Prakritim vidhi me param jiva, bhutam mahabhavo ehadam daryate jagat. And beyond this, there is another Prakriti, Jiva Bhuta. The living entity Prakriti itself is constituted by the three qualities, the mode of goodness, the mode of passion, the mode of ignorance. Above this mode of this, there is eternal time by the combination of this mode of nature and under the controller and purview of eternal time, there are activities which are called karma. These activities are being carried out from time immemorial, and we are suffering or enjoying the fruit of our activities. For instance, suppose I am a businessman and have worked very hard with intelligence and have amassed a great bank balance. Then I am enjoyer, but then say I have lost all the money in business, then I am a sufferer. Similarly, in every field of life, we enjoy the result of our work or we suffer the result. This is called karma. Ishvara, the Supreme Lord, Jiva, the living entity, Prakriti, nature, eternal time, karma, activities are all explained in the Bhagavad Gita. Out of these five, the Lord, the living entities, material nature, and time are eternal. The manifestation of Prakriti may be temporary, but it is not false. Some philosophers say that the manifestation of material nature is false, but according to the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita or according to the philosophy of Vaishnava, this is not so. The manifestation of the Lord is not accepted as a false. It is accepted as real but temporary. It is likened onto the cloud which is moved across the sky or the coming of the rainy season which is nourishes grain. As soon as the rainy season is over and as soon as the cloud goes away, all the crops which are nourished by the rain dry up. Similarly, this material manifestation takes place at a certain interval, stay for the while, and then disappear. Such are the working of Prakriti, but this cycle is working eternally. Therefore, Prakriti is eternal, it is not false. The Lord refers to this as my Prakriti. This material nature is a separated energy of a Supreme Lord, and similarly, the living entity are also the energy of a Supreme Lord, but they are not separated. They are eternal related. So, the Lord, the living entity, material nature, and time are all interrelated and are all eternal. However, the other items, karma is not eternal. The effect of karma may be very old indeed. We are suffering or enjoying the result of our activities from time immemorial, but we can change the result of our karma or our activities, and this change depends on the perfection of our knowledge. We are engaged in various activities. Undoubtedly, we do not know what sorts of activity we should adopt to gain relief from the action and reaction of all these activities. But this is also explained in Bhagavad Gita. The position of Ishvara is a supreme consciousness. The jivas or the living entities, being a part and parcel of a supreme Lord, are also consciousness. But the living entity and the material nature are explained as Prakriti, the energy of a supreme Lord. But one of the two, the jivas, is conscious. The other Prakriti is not conscious. That is the difference. Therefore, the jiva Prakriti is called superior because the jiva has consciousness which is similar to the Lord. The Lord is the supreme consciousness. However, and one should not claim that the Jiva, the living entity, is also supremely consciousness. The living beings cannot be supremely consciousness at any stage of his perfection. And the theory that he can be so is misleading theory. Conscious he may be, but he is not perfectly or supreme conscious. The distinction between the Jiva and the Ishvara will be explained in the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. The Lord is Kshetrajnana, conscious as he is the living entity, but the living being is conscious of his particular body, whereas the Lord is conscious of all the bodies, because he lives in the heart of every living being. He is conscious of a physic movement of the particular jivas. We should not forget this. It is also explained that the Paramatma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is living in everyone's heart as Ishvara, as the controller, and that he is giving direction for the living entity to act his desire. The living entity forgets what to do. First of all, he makes the determination to act in certain way, and then he is entangled in the act and reaction of his own karma. After giving up one type of body, he enters another type of body. As we put on and take off the old cloth, as the soul thus migrate, he suffers the action and reaction of his past activities. This activity can be changed when the living being is in a mode of goodness instantly and understand what sorts of activity he should adopt. If he does so, then all the action and reaction of his past activities can be changed. Consequently, karma is not eternal. Therefore, we stated that the five items Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti, time, and karma, four of the eternal, whereas karma is not eternal. The Supreme Conscious, Ishvara, is similar to the living entity in this way. Both the conscious of the Lord and that of the living entities are transcendental. It is not that consciousness is generated by the association of matter. That is mistaken idea. The theory that consciousness developed under certain circumstances of eternal combination is not accepted in Bhagavad Gita. Consequently, may be perfectly reflected by the covering of material circumstance, just as a light reflected to colored glass may appear to be certain color, but the consciousness of a Lord is not materially affected. Hare Krishna, yeah, anyone would like to read from here?
Lord Krishna says, Madhya Daksha Prakriti. When he descends into material universe, his consciousness is not materially affected. If he was so affected, he would be unfit to speak on the transcendental matter as he does in Bhagavad Gita. One cannot say anything about transcendental world without being free from material contaminated consciousness. So the Lord is not materially contaminated. Our consciousness at the time of at the present moment, however, is materially contaminated consciousness. In pure consciousness, our action will be doubted to the will of Ishvara, and that will make us happy. Not, it is not that we have to cease all activity, rather, our activity be purified, and purified activity are called bhakti. Activities in bhakti appear to be like ordinary activity, but they are not contaminated. An ignorant person may see that devotee is acting or working like ordinary man, but such a person with poor fund of knowledge does not know that activities of devotee or the Lord are not contaminated by impure consciousness or matter. They are transcendental to three modes of nature. We should know, however, that at this point our consciousness is contaminated. When we are materially contaminated, we are called conditioned. False consciousness is exhibited under the impression that I am a product of material nature. This is false ego. One is observed in the thought of bodily conception cannot understand his situation. Bhagavad Gita was spoken to liberate one from the bodily conception of life. Arjuna put himself in a position in order to receive this information from the Lord. One must become free from bodily conception of life. This is preliminary activity for transcendentalist. One who wants to become free, who wants to become liberated, must first all learn that he is not material body. Mukti or liberation means freedom from material consciousness. In Srimad Bhagavatam, also the definition of liberation is given. Mukti means liberation from contaminated consciousness of material world and situation in pure consciousness. All the instructions of Bhagavad Gita are intended to awaken this pure consciousness. Therefore, we find last stage of Gita's instruction that Krishna is asking Arjuna whether he is now purified consciousness. Purified consciousness means acting in accordance with the instruction of the Lord. This this is the wholesome and substance of purified consciousness. Consciousness is already there because we are part and parcel of the Lord. But for us, there is an affinity of being affected by inferior modes. But the Lord being supreme is never affected. The difference between Supreme Lord and the conditioned soul, that's the difference between Supreme Lord and conditioned soul. What is consciousness? This is consciousnness. I am. Then what I am? In the contaminated consciousness, I am means I am the Lord of all I survey. I am the enjoyer. The world revolves because every living entity thinks he is the Lord and creator of material world. Material consciousness has two psychic division. One is that I am creator and another other is that I am enjoyer. but actually Supreme Lord is both creator and enjoyer, and the living entity being part and parcel of Supreme Lord is neither a creator nor a enjoyer, but a cooperator. Is created and enjoyed, for instance, a part of machine cooperate with whole machine, a part of body cooperate with the whole body, hands, feet, eyes, legs, so on, all parts of body, but they are not actually the enjoyer. The stomach is the enjoyer. The leg moves and supply food, teeth, chews, and all part of the body are engaged in the satisfaction of stomach, because stomach is a principal factor that nourishes the body's organization. Therefore, everything is given to stomach. One nourishes the tree by watering its roots, and one nourishes the body by feeding the stomach. For if the body is kept in healthy state, then the parts of the body must cooperate to feed the stomach. Similarly, Supreme Lord is an enjoyer and a creator, and we as a subordinate living beings are meant to cooperate to satisfy him. This cooperation will actually help us, just as food taken by stomach will help all other parts of body. If the fingers of the ant think they should take the food themselves instead of giving to the stomach, then they will be frustrated. The central figure of the creation and the enjoyment is Supreme Lord, and the living entities are cooperated. By cooperation they enjoy. Hare Krishna, please scroll.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you for joining. We'll be stopping here for today. And also, there is a link sent over here. So, it's the link to a WhatsApp group. Whoever is interested in reading these books with us daily, in the sense like reading it out in the group, just like how Prabhu did now, you may join this group and we will assign you each day, one day, and then you can read.
Yeah, please, if anyone is interested, so you can join from this link. So as Jyotish Prabhu told that every day will get, even also get a chance to read Bhagavad Gita. So once he's done, then you can drop from the call.